common mistakes all you real estate investors out there that don't know what you're doing typically make. These are common mistakes that real estate investors make. We're going to talk about those common mistakes, and I'm going to show you how to avoid them. I want you to avoid these common mistakes, okay? So we're going to get right into it. 5 common mistakes investors make. These are very, very common. You see my whiteboards are always full because I do a lot of content. We have an online educational program, so we're always doing new courses. We're always adding new modules. And if you want some education, if you want some coaching or mentorship, I'll share some information with you at the end of today's show. But for now, let's talk about these 5 common mistakes these REI individuals like to make for whatever the reasons are. Mistake number 1, these real estate investors, they never get started. That's the first mistake a real estate investor makes. They never get started. They never invest in real estate. Never. They just keep talking about what they finna do and what they're in the process of doing and how they're strategizing. This is a common mistake a lot of people make. They go to REI meetings, RIA events. They go to networking events. They pass their cards out. They set up a landing page. They get a website. They get cards printed out. They go to seminars, webinars. They take courses. They do everything except invest in actual real estate. Okay. Now, I have an idea why a lot of real estate investors make this first common mistake by not getting started. My idea is this. I personally think when a person makes a decision to become a real estate investor, they have this intimidation factor. They have this fear factor. And even if they get information, that information doesn't always translate into confidence or courage to actually do a deal. I think a real estate investor who's just getting started not only needs, and this is how you're going to avoid not getting started. I think you need information, but I also think you need mentorship. I think you need to be in a community surrounded by people who actually doing the doggone thing. Like, you got to rub shoulders with people who doing deals every day, who are underwriting deals, who are signing contracts, who are going to closing tables, who are rehabbing and renovating homes, who are renting them and selling them and doing that. When you get around people who doing it, now not only do you have the competence from the information you're learning, but you're going to have the confidence and the courage. Like, we got people who are in our mentorship program right now who are just getting started in real estate, but they're getting started by reaching out to people, generating leads to do deals, not because they know everything, not because they've ever done it before, because they have people like me and my team with them telling them, listen, all you got to do is text people, email people, and call people, or knock on doors and communicate. And the moment you get somebody who gives you a maybe or a yeah, bring us in. Let us help you pull that deal through, okay? So they have the courage and the confidence to get started. So if you lack the courage or the confidence, or maybe just the information, how do you avoid not getting started? Well, again, you got to get around the right people. That means you got to get educated. More importantly, you got to think about what type of investing, where do I need to find myself in the deal? Maybe at first you might not be the end buyer. You might not get the whole pie. Maybe you just need to get a finder's fee. Maybe you need to generate a lead and bring that lead to an investor. And if that lead turns into a deal, you ask the investor to give you a finder's fee. Maybe if you know a little bit more, you got to be competent enough, but you could be the wholesaler. Maybe you could be a private money lender. What if you got money and some credit and some resources where you could go to an investor and say, listen, I don't know how to do a deal from beginning to end, but I do have some private money that I can lend on the deal. And the contingency is, would you let me shadow you through the entire deal, all the way to the closing table, or all the way to selling it or renting it or exiting it? All right. So you don't have to be the end buyer. You don't have to be the real estate investor. Then there's real estate investors who never get started because they cocky, they arrogant, they prideful. And instead of them bringing other people in on the deal, like how I just mentioned, they want to do it all by themselves because they want the whole pie. Well, you ain't got enough experience. Trust me, before I became an end buyer, buying real estate and being the person who's doing the whole deal, before I became that person, me and my wife, we have been the service providers helping other real estate investors. We've done that for years. I was just telling the students this past Saturday at our workshop that we have made investors and sellers and buyers of real estate, we've made them millions of dollars in the last 20 years. In many of these deals, we were not the investors. We were just either the agent, the contractor, the consultant. We were just helping them put the deal together. But we got the experience. We got the credibility. We were able to see how it all plays out from different aspects. So that's number one. Second mistake. This is a very common mistake real estate investors make is they, I hope it ain't you, they take shortcuts. Let me tell you something. It ain't no shortcuts when it comes to real long-term sustainable success and legacy building. But this is a very common mistake a lot of real estate investors make. They take shortcuts. So when I say take shortcuts, what am I talking about? Well, in real estate investing, I'm talking about taking shortcuts on what we call due diligence. Okay? Due diligence. So there are three areas of due diligence that a real estate investor can take a shortcut on. There's a legal area, there's a financial area, and then there's a physical area. Okay? So let me explain to you why taking a shortcut can cost you a real estate investment career. Legal due diligence, first and foremost, begins with structuring your enterprise the correct way. So I teach a lot about the holding company, and the reason why I teach on the holding company, because if you're going to be a real estate investor, I would prefer for you to have a holding company where this is you at the top. You have your holding company right here. This is HC for holding company. And then you create a subsidiary for your real estate investing. So this real estate company is owned by the company that you own. Doing it that way, it gives you so many different benefits, not just short term, but it gives you benefits long term. So I think one of the shortcuts that real estate investors make is they don't set their enterprise up the correct way as far as the legal structure is concerned. Another shortcut legally that real estate investors take is they don't have proper representation. For example, if there are certain documents and forms that you need, especially if you do creative real estate investing like subject to owner finance, lease options, wraps, and all those other types of creative transactions, you do not want to just rely on finding somebody like Ramon Preston on the internet, some guru, and paying for their documents and thinking that those documents, line upon line, are going to work perfectly for where you do real estate investing in. You don't know if it's going to work in that area. You don't know if there are certain laws that govern that area. And when you try to take a shortcut and not pay for an attorney to not only vet your documents if you have them already, but to draft your documents and to give you legal advice on how this needs to play out, you're taking a shortcut and it's going to cost you a lot. And it'll probably cost you way more than it would to just pay an attorney to do it for you, okay? So what are some financial shortcuts that real estate investors take? Well, they don't know how to underwrite deals. If you don't know how to underwrite a deal, that means you don't know how to look at a deal and analyze the overall performance of that property. You don't know how to do the math and the calculations between the purchase price, the cost of acquisition, the after repair value, the rent value, if it can rent. If you don't know how to underwrite deals like that, your numbers are going to be off, and you might get into a deal that you think is financially doable, and it's financially destructive because you just didn't do your numbers. So me and my team, I was doing some exercises with them this morning after our role playing and training. And one of the exercises was underwriting some deals on the real estate side. Okay. And they were just looking at one property, and they saw how, wow, you could get one wrong piece of data and that can throw your numbers off $20,000 to $30,000. Well, $20,000 to $30,000 on a deal being off can literally bankrupt a real estate investor. Okay, so what is some physical due diligence or shortcuts? Well, a lot of times if you're doing a deal, you need to get an inspection. Maybe you need a different type of inspection. So depending on where that property is, depending on the age of the property, you might need all types of inspections. So getting a home inspection is not just a basic $200-300 home inspection where somebody comes in with a flashlight and they looking all in the house and, they just write stuff on paper. Sometimes you might need to check the soil if it's a creek in the yard. You need to make sure that you might need a survey if it's a certain amount of acreage. You might need to do a termite inspection. There are so many different things that you might need, and it will depend on the age of the property or the physical condition of the property. You got to do your due diligence because this is a shortcut that will bankrupt your real estate investing. Common mistake number 3, okay? Real estate investors, they enter, I'm going to put emphasis on that, they enter without an exit. That's a common mistake a lot of real estate investors make. They enter without an exit. What do you mean by that? They enter a deal without knowing how they're going to exit the deal. So when you get into a deal, you got to already know how you finna get out this thing. Are you going to buy and hold this property? Are you going to fix and flip it? Are there other creative ways for you to exit this deal? But I have to be clear on my exit before I enter it, okay? So I'm not going to close on a property, put all my money into a property, and then once I leave the closing attorney's office with a packet as the owner, I'm not going to wait to that point to determine, man, how I'm going to get rid of this property. How am I going to make my money on this property? You gotta enter with the exit, okay? So again, how do you enter with an exit? In order to avoid entering without an exit, you got to know how to underwrite, and you got to have multiple strategies to exit that property. Your exit can be a BRRRR strategy, buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. It could be a BRRRR. It could be a buy and hold. It could be a lease option that you do. If you're in the creative space, it could be a wrap that you do. It's so many ways to exit, but your exit is going to have a lot to do to determine with, like, how much money are you putting in the deal? What type of return you want to get out of the deal? And other things. Maybe you're not looking at the money side as much as you're looking at the depreciation side. So these are all the things that you learn as you continue to do real estate deals. So don't just be an information junkie, but you never practice the information, okay? So mistake number 3, real estate investors make. They enter without an exit, okay? Mistake number 4, they get lazy. They get lazy and or give up on expansion. That's the key word. So a lot of times, once a real estate investor gets past the procrastination, and once they get past not taking shortcuts because they ambitious and anxious to get a property, once a real estate investor gets past not knowing how to underwrite deals and they know how to, well, a lot of times real estate investors make the mistake of getting lazy and or they give up. So what do I mean? Well, getting lazy means if you're around people who don't have no real estate, no assets, no cash flow, no wealth building vehicles that they're using, you can kind of get lazy because you can start feeling like you're the top dog. You know, I know people who got 2 or 3 pieces of real estate and they swear up and down they own half the block. And they only got 2 or 3 pieces of real estate as if they got some. And here's the thing. Some people can own real estate, and because that real estate is being held, the margins are so low, they're paying more money most months than they're making. I know this to be true. I've seen a lot of real estate investors in my 20 years. I've seen a lot of real estate investors lose their shoes, their socks, and all their bank accounts and their whole businesses because they got lazy and or they gave up on expanding. So you got to keep expanding, especially if all you're doing is buying and holding real estate, because this is a part of your acquisition strategy. You may need to buy and hold some, but then you might need to buy and flip some if you don't have enough active income coming in from somewhere else to sustain you during that time when the cash flow you get from buying and holding does not pay the bills, because you need right now money and you want tomorrow money. So I know people who buy one property and they put everything in that one property and they hold that property, but their return is so low, they might not be able to refinance it. And now they're stuck on one deal for 3, 4, 5 years until they can get another deal. And this is very, very common for most real estate investors who are not creative, who don't think out of the box, who don't think expansion, and who not around people who really doing real estate. Okay, so that's common mistake number 4. So the way you prevent or avoid getting lazy or giving up is, again, you got to get around people who doing it. You got to get around people who force you and challenge you to think bigger. One of my mentors is a billionaire. I'm gonna be with that community in a couple days, and I've been around that community for a while now, and I'm telling you, every time I get into any of those rooms with this particular group of people, man, they just make you think like, oh my God, I got to go back and do something. I'm not doing enough. Because when they talk about real estate in some of the rooms I walk in, they talking about like 1,000 units, 3,000 units, a 500 unit, a 200 unit, and I'm over here thinking about one house. I'm struggling with trying to put one deal together. I'm thinking, oh my God, I got to get my game up. So I avoid getting lazy. I avoid giving up on expansion because of who I am around and what I am observing in real time. Because this stuff on the internet sometimes can trick you into thinking something different, and you start living in this illusion when it's not a reality. All right. So the 5th and final common mistake real estate investors make is they either miscalculate or mismanage their money. So let me explain to you what I mean, because miscalculating is a little bit different than mismanaging in terms of the money that you're making. Okay, in real estate, there are different types of money that you make, if that makes sense to you. So for example, in real estate, if you fix and flip a property, and if you buy a property, fix it up, and then go resell it and flip it, okay? As a flipper, the money you make or the profits you make when you subtract your expenses and the costs associated to doing the deal, those are going to be capital gains, right? That's money you made. That's profit. Okay? That money is going to be treated differently than the money you make if you buy that same house, fix it up, hold it over long periods of time, rent it out, lease it out or whatever, and just get monthly payments. That money is going to look different and be treated different for tax purposes, which I'm not a tax strategist, okay? I'm an entrepreneur who has one, but I'm not one. But I do know enough to know that this money is going to be treated differently depending on how you structure that deal once you buy it, whether you fix it, sell it, or fix it and rent it, okay? So if you fix a property and sell it, meaning that if you're into the flipping part, a lot of real estate investors make the mistake of miscalculating their capital gains. They miscalculate it. It could be because they're making so much money, they're not thinking about all the tax liabilities that's going to come with all that money they make in a calendar year. Or it could be they're not thinking about taxes and they're not thinking about rainy days or any other days in the future or long-term wealth, and they spending all their money and they're not thinking about reinvesting that money in things that have long-term appreciation, that gives them depreciation, and that keeps cash flow coming in. So that could be a miscalculation that messes you up. Then you have some who, let's say they buy and hold a property and they mismanage the cash flow, which a lot of times, especially in residential, unless you're doing like a real good Airbnb or you're doing a good midterm rental, a lot of times if you just buy property, fix it up, put it back on the market to rent it, a lot of times your cash flow is not a lot. The average in most, like single family homes, it may be $300 or $400 a month that an investor cash flows on that property. But let's just say hypothetically, it's $500 a month, which is exceptional depending on how you're renting the property out, okay? And depends on if it's paid in full, if there's a note, if you have a property manager, all those things play a role. And it depends on where it's at. Because if it's in Florida by the water and you got HOAs that cost more than HOAs and insurance that cost more than a mortgage, you might be paying money to rent that property out. But my point is, even if it's $500 a month that you cash flow from a rental property, right? Well, that's $6,000 a year. If the HVAC unit goes out in that house, that HVAC might cost you $8,000. So that means that HVAC system in one situation has cost you over a year of your cash flow. So it'll take you over a year just to make that cash flow back. So that's why I say you cannot mismanage that cash flow. But these are just the 5 common mistakes that real estate investors make, and I want to show you how to avoid them. Now, the way you avoid this is, if you're flipping properties, I would say, number one, you need to have a big enough margin on that flip, even if it's, let's say, $10,000, $20,000 you're making on that flip, or wholesaling, whatever. You need to properly calculate what you need to set aside for potential taxes and or for purchasing other assets where you can use depreciation. Like, that's where you need a tax strategist to work with you on, so that you're not just making 100% of this amount of money flipping properties and you don't have no write-offs, no deductions or depreciation. You're just spending money and you're just using it as an expense. You got to at some point pivot into, okay, I need to weigh this against holding on to some assets that I can get some depreciation, okay? The way you avoid mismanaging buy and holds is, again, you probably need to do some flips or some wholesales so that you can have some now money, because it may take you a while to have enough rental income that pays the bills and sustains the property. It's not that easy unless, of course, you have like this economy of scale that you're doing where you buy, 100 unit apartments or 50 units or even 30 units. Now you playing a different game. But again, it still costs money to get into that deal, and you got to know what you're doing. So these are just the 5 common mistakes. I would love to get some feedback from you. Let me know what you think about these 5 common mistakes. If you are a real estate investor or you want to get into real estate investing and you do not have a real estate investing mentor, you don't have courses and education to keep you updated on all these things that we're talking about, if you're not a part of a community that aligns with your views and values, and if you want to get that type of support and mentorship, we do have a mentorship program, okay? It's called the Millionaire Mentorship Program. It's a 1-year accelerated business coaching and consulting program. Now, this mentorship program originally did not include real estate mentorship, like workshops, I hosted just this past Saturday. But we added it for this year because I've had so many people in this mentorship program just within the last 3 years, and we have a good number of people who are still in it after like 2 or 3 years. And now that they have their businesses set up, they have all these systems and processes, some of them are starting to pivot over into the real estate game now. They want to play that game. And so what I decided to do, instead of, like moving them out of this current mentorship program into our real estate program, I just added as a complimentary service our real estate courses into this one, the investing courses and the workshops. So the real estate investing workshops that we do all year, and the coaching calls that we host for real estate all year, and any of the one-on-one sessions or in-person group sessions that we do regarding real estate, like what we're going to be doing in a couple weeks. We'll come together for about 4 or 5 hours and underwrite deals, role play, make calls. We're going to go preview some properties when we have them bought and closed. All of that is complimentary to this program for 2024, okay? So if you're interested in being a part of our mentorship program, this program has a lot of benefits. We have weekly coaching calls. So every Monday at 7:00 p.m. Eastern, we have a live private Zoom call where we all converge together. We talk, we network, we ask questions, we get information, we give feedback and share success stories. So that's every Monday. We have a weekly call. We have regular workshops. So that means just this year alone, we're probably going to host about 6 different workshops. Some are going to be on real estate investing, sales and marketing, corporate systems and processes. We have workshops around finances. So we do workshops to help you engineer a successful enterprise. That should include real estate investing. Okay. We also give you access to our Millionaire Blueprint, which is the educational program that we use. This is all online, virtual. You can watch these videos 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on demand from any device, and you can learn the ins and outs of what we're doing. So all you have to do is call or text the word mentor to 678-276-8253 or 8556. All you have to do is call one of those numbers or text the word mentor to one of those numbers, and one of our team members will reach back out to you, answer any question that you might have about investing, how to get started, where do you get your documents from. Any question that you have about real estate investing, you can call us and ask us, okay? Guess what? If you don't want to call or text the word mentor because you feel like you're not ready to be educated, you're not ready for a mentor, you don't want to spend no money, then guess what? Go to my YouTube page. We have over 4,000 videos there. And those videos are made up of training sessions for holding companies, tax strategies, real estate, Everything we do here in our mentorship program, we've got videos. Of course, it's not going to be like the videos inside of our university, which, by the way, they're not the same videos. Some people have asked me that question. I've had people to call me and ask me, okay, you got that many videos on YouTube. Is your whole online university just made up of YouTube videos that you've repurposed, or interviews, or the Ramon Preston show that you just edited and put on there? Absolutely not. Over 96, 97, I could probably say safely, 96 to 97% of the videos that are on Ramon Preston University have never been exposed to the general public. Now, of course, we do have some modules, like we have a module for, I think one of the modules is called the best lessons from the Ramon Preston show. So every once in a while, we'll pull like the best lessons from this show, and we'll put some videos on there just to make it easy so people don't have to flesh through hundreds and hundreds of videos on YouTube. And then we may have some replays from our workshops or our coaching, our weekly coaching call. But again, that's not exposed to the general public. And that's where all the meat is a lot of times. And the truth is this: you could go to social media pages and YouTube and search engines, and you can learn a lot. But what I've learned is people who learn all that information, if they're not in a community and around people, they don't have the confidence and the courage to do what they think they're competent in. They don't do it because you really don't have that courage and that confidence. So anyway, you could go to my YouTube page. You could go to RamonPreston.com and just check out our website to see all the things that we're doing, what our programs are. But either way, if you need information, if you have questions, or if you want access to all of our training and mentorship and coaching and workshops, including this workbook from our recent creative real estate investing workshop we just hosted Saturday, with the replay, text mentor to 678-276-8253 or 8556. So that's 678-276-8253 or 8556. Screenshot the number, hold it in your phone, because the day gonna come and you're gonna be like, you know what, man, I'm finna holler at Mr. Preston over there. I gotta give him a call, man. I gotta find out what I need to do to get to the next level. At some point, you're gonna need somebody. So we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for joining the show today. I had an amazing time, as always, on here running my mouth, giving you the game, showing you how to get to the next level. So hopefully, as long as we're not tied up on a property or in the middle of a deal or sitting with a client, we'll be back here tomorrow, same place, same time, live on the Ramon